الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. The Quran is filled with stories to refresh our iman and also to give us a sense of direction in regards to our lives, our choices, and that includes the choices of what type of environment we keep ourselves in, who we take to be our friends, how we stand up in the face of challenges and difficulties. All of these are a part and parcel of the message of the Quran and the guidance of the Quran. Take Surah Al-Kahf, for example, the famous story of Ashab al-Kahf. It's not just a story to tell us about a miraculous event of people who slept for a long time, but rather it is about standing up for one's identity and faith and making the required sacrifices to maintain that and to protect that. And as long as people are prepared and willing to make sacrifices for the sake of preserving these things, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help and assistance will always be with them in every era, in every age, irrespective of what part of the world they are from, irrespective of what lineage they belong to, what ethnicity they are from. It doesn't matter in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rules are about people having faith and making sacrifices to uphold that faith. The people of the cave made those sacrifices, and they made a very well-informed decision to leave their place at a time when they were under a lot of pressure to just buckle and to give in to the demands of not just the masses, but of the leadership, of the ruler of that time. But they walked away knowing that they would not be able to come back, and knowing that there was no specific place that they could even go and conceal themselves. But the thing about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ways is that they don't depend on what a person has available to them, what means and resources they have in their hands at that time. It's more about whether they have the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with them or not. And when a person shows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they're willing to give sacrifice for his loyalty, in other words, to maintain their loyalty to him, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows how he responds. One of the qualities of Allah is shakur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very grateful. Allah azza wa jalla is so grateful that for every minute act that a person does to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah azza wa jalla rewards them manyfold. So for the sacrifice of one night and the risk of one night, essentially that's what the people of the cave had in their minds, that we're going to escape tonight and hide out somewhere in the mountains, and then we'll see what to do tomorrow. So for that sacrifice and that risk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved their legacy. So in the divine scriptures, these people are being talked about and praised, and the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that came to them is being described in such vivid detail. Similarly, in the story of Musa alayhi salam in Surah Taha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Musa alayhi salam an apparently simple question. وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا مُوسَى. What is that in your right hand, O Musa? What is it that you're holding in your right hand? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obviously knew what was in his right hand. He did not need to ask. This was not a question of trying to identify the object that he had in his hand. This was a question for him to assess what he thought he had in his hand. It was a question compelling an individual to take into stock what they thought they were equipped with. So Musa alayhi salam responds by saying, Hiya asai, this is my staff. Atawakka'u alayha. These are the uses. This is the utility of this staff. Atawakka'u alayha. I use it for support, to lean on when I'm walking. Wa ahushu biha ala ghanami. I use it to shake leaves off of branches for my sheep. وَلِيَ فِيهَا مَآرِبُ أُخْرَى. And I have other uses for it as well. For example, it could be used for self-defense. It could be used for other things. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through this ayah, is also asking us to assess what we think we have in our hands. So someone will respond with their home and the possessions they have in their home. Others will respond with their means of transport, what type of vehicle they have. Some will respond with the kind of bank balance that they have. Others will speak of investments. Others will speak of business interests. Others will speak of what skills and talents they have. These are the asbab that we have in our hands. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is instructing us to take a look at these asbab. Think about it. What is it really? And to what extent can it help you? What extent can it do something for you? Now, while we're holding that staff, while we have those asbab in our hands, we feel empowered and we feel comforted, just like Musa alayhi salam expressed very plainly and simply the comforts or the uses that this simple object, this staff, was providing him. Like this, we can go on and talk about our possessions, how good they are, what quality they are, and what uses they have, and how beneficial they have proven to us. We can do this about all our possessions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Musa alayhi salam, Alqiha ya Musa. Drop your staff. Throw it down on the ground. This is an instruction not just to drop a stick, but rather to let go of the asbab so that a person can see what is the reality of the means that a person has. What are those asbab actually representing, and what are they actually capable of? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was teaching Musa alayhi salam that these asbab might look like one thing and they might appear to give you all of these usages and benefits, but the fact is that they are nothing more than an instrument that is under my command. And that instrument will be used for what I want it to be. And in fact, I could turn that sabab, that means, into anything that I choose. I could take a purely beneficial means and make it into a source of harm. And I could take the most harmful means and make it into a source of benefit. Or I could carry out my command without the use of any means. So the moment Musa alayhi salam throws that staff and drops it, فَأَلْقَاهَا فَإِذَا هِيَ حَيَّةٌ تَسْعَى. It's no longer a staff. It is now this massive snake, this serpent of a snake, which is chasing after him. That same thing that he was able to grasp in his hand, and it couldn't move unless he moved it, and it would do whatever he wanted it to do. It now becomes animate, and it is now chasing after Musa alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Musa alayhi salam to stop running. Because when this snake comes running at Musa alayhi salam, like the other ayat describe, وَاللَّا مُدْبِرًا وَلَمْ يُعَقِّبْ. He turned around and ran and did not look back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then commands Musa alayhi salam, Musa, don't be afraid. Just like I could turn this staff into something so dangerous, I also have the power to restore it back to its original properties. خُذْهَا وَلَا تَخَفْ. Grab it. Now grab it. First, it was easy to grab. It was natural to hold on to it. Now it looks dangerous. At that time, it looked beneficial, so you were grabbing it. Now it looks dangerous. Do you have the faith to still go and grab it? Have you developed that confidence in the command of Allah that what looks beneficial is only beneficial if Allah allows it to be, and what looks harmful is only harmful if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it to be? Have you built that yaqeen? So Musa alayhi salam summons all his courage. He turns around, he stops, and he faces this snake. And instead of running away, he extends his hand and goes and grabs it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, سَنُعِيدُهَا سِيرَتَهَا الْأُولَى. I am going to restore it to its original properties. Sirataha, its original, Sirataha al-Ula, its original properties, as you were familiar with it, as you knew it. And that's exactly what happened. Sometimes we have to detach ourselves. Dropping the staff represents detaching ourselves and stepping back away from our means. These means that we have become so used to and so comfortable with, sometimes you need to step back. Islam does not tell us to denounce all of our worldly responsibilities and all our worldly means. Islam does not tell us to walk away from means and reject them altogether and then suffer as a result. This is not what Islam is asking us to do. Islam is asking us to create a distance between our heart and those means. Let those means be there in our lives, but let them not come inside where our reliance and dependence is first on the means and then on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or it is the means that give us comfort, not those actions that bring Allah's help that should be giving us comfort. This is where a conflict is created. When we have the means and we take the means to be the source of assistance and help and solutions and everything else, and we start forgetting about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a secondary manner, and we start thinking that these means that we have, they by themselves have the power to solve our problem, whether it's wealth, power, or any kind of resource, any kind of tool. When we start thinking that these things by themselves can do anything for us, that is where it comes into conflict with the nature of our iman. And the nature of our iman dictates that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who will do things for us, whether we have the means or we don't have the means. So distancing ourselves, dropping the means that, look, first of all, whenever these means ask us to make a compromise with the command of Allah, we will not. If our job or our business is the means which is supporting us, then we will allow it to support us. We will use it for that purpose. But the moment this comes into conflict with a command of Allah, we are not going to allow that to create a barrier between us and our Creator. We will put the means in its place, and we will put the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its due place. And the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always remain on top. Similarly, our families are a big bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah azza wa jalla has described the favor that He has done to us by giving us families. And these families are a source of comfort. Just like they're a source of recognition and identity, they're also a source of comfort, joy, and happiness. But they are a means of that. They are not a guarantee of that. Ultimately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take this family and make it a source of all of those things, but He could also take a family and turn it into the opposite of a source of comfort and joy and so on and so forth. Our responsibility is to treat it the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instructed us and guided us, fulfilling the huquq, looking after whoever we need to look after, having that sense of accountability. But ultimately, our responsibility is to turn to Allah for our comfort and to turn to Allah for our joy. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make whatever He wants a means for that. So stepping back and assessing our asbab, our means, is something that every believer should do. And stepping back also means that I don't have my reliance in this. My reliance is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I may have this thing in my hand, but in my heart, my yaqeen, my belief is that only Allah can look after my affairs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for me. Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is sufficient for me, and He is the best one to rely on and trust in. These are some of the lessons that we gain from many stories in the Quran. The story of Ashab al-Kahf and the elaborate arrangement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made for them once they took that big step, and the very lengthy and detailed story of Musa alayhi salam, which is mentioned repeatedly in the Quran. And other stories in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are also telling us about this. In this month, one of the mandates is to increase our iman, to build and refine and strengthen our state of iman. This is one of the mandates of this month. The Prophet ﷺ has told us, "Man sama Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaban, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." A person who fasts the month of Ramadan with iman, with a high degree of yaqeen, faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ihtisab, which is the expectation, a high expectation of reward, or an expectation of great reward. A person who fasts and spends the month in this way, all of their previous sins will be forgiven. And in the riwayah of Musnad Ahmad, it's mentioned that even their future sins can be forgiven. May Allah Azza wa Jal enable us to use this month to our advantage. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the Quran a source of guidance for our hearts. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the Quran the compass by which we navigate our lives. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam. Tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma laka alhamdu kama anta ahlu. فصل على محمد كما أنت أهله وافعل بنا ما أنت أهله ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أهله إنك أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين جزا الله عنا نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا راحم المساكين يا أكرم الأكرمين يا أجود الأجودين يا كاشف الكرب يا إله العالمين يا رب العالمين يا رب العالمين يا رب العالمين ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار اللهم توفنا مسلمين وألحقنا بالصالحين غير خزايا ولا ندامى ولا مفتونين اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت إنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت نستغفرك اللهم من جميع الذنوب ونتوب إليك وصلى الله على النبي الكريم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما اللهم إنا نسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين وأن تغفر لنا وترحمنا وإذا أردت بقوم فتنة فتوفنا إليك غير مفتونين ونسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عمل يقربنا إلى حبك اللهم اجعل حبك أحب الأشياء إلينا واجعل خشيتك أخوف الأشياء عندنا اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا حلالا طيبا واسعا وشفاء عاجلا كاملا من كل داء وعملا متقبلا. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع عنا الوباء والبلاء. اللهم ارفع عنا الوباء والبلاء. اللهم ارض عنا وتقبل منا وادخلنا الجنة ونجنا من النار وأصلح لنا شأننا كله. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا وعاف مبتلانا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. آمين. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك.